Hello. This is OverDrive. My name is Brendan Dunlop. Happy to be back in the seat here on TSN Radio 1050. We're on TSN 4. Very happy to be alongside Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star again. What's up, man?
Yes, sir.
Been a minute. Nice couple of weeks since we did this last. The Blue Jays are in a much better situation than they were the last time I did this show with you.
Yes.
The New York Yankees are in a dire situation since I did
Very
the show
true.
with you.
Always nice to see the evil empire in a smoldering wreck.
It really is, right? Like there's not too many other franchises. I mean, every fan base in Canada, if you're outside of Toronto, you might call the Leafs the evil empire. But like every sport has like one of them that just, even the fans, the diehard fans, they're aware of why the outside world sees them that way.
Yes.
Right?
And I've got an insufferable Yankee fan in my household, so it's.
Oh, you do?
I like rubbing it in when they're not Yankee-esque.
This is the offspring or this is the missus?
Yeah, that's the offspring.
Oh,
yeah.
How did you get that? How'd that
That's
happen?
weird,
2008?
right? Like, yeah. No, he's a Yankee fan. He played for North York. They have the NY hats. This is my explanation for why he's not a Blue Jays fan. He is a Leaf fan. He grew up a Leaf fan, but he just never really grabbed onto the Jays. He liked Jeter. He was a Jeter guy. Like, a lot of kids were Jeter guys in those. And he played a lot of baseball, had the NY hat for North York. The leap to the New York hat was not that far.
Sure. And they were contending, and they had one title probably in what was a pretty formative growing up period of his life.
Yeah.
But that's what does it.
What?
That hooks it.
It's not fun. It's great when the Yankees stink because you can just drill them.
Yeah.
It's great.
He's not one of those kids, though, that like only knows Yankees winning, though. Like it's
true.
He's actually grown up at a period where it's more of a deep-rooted fandom to have like held on to it for that long, where you've only got the one title.
Exactly.
Right? As opposed to all these guys in their early 20s who are Patriots fans.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like morning show producer Arad, who's like, front runner central, loving the Patriots. I tell you, you know what? Yeah, I those people that are big fans of front running teams, it's just hard to really kind of latch onto those people. I respect the fans that like Tatman has loved the Detroit Lions his entire life, still loves the Detroit Lions, right? Why? Who knows? There's nothing to love. But, he's been there the whole time.
I feel like this is a perfect topic that I stumbled into unintentionally because I am the, not prototypical, I would say, but I'm the confusing sports fan that I have teams in other markets and they always require an explanation. Like I'm a Rangers fan and a New York Knicks fan.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up in Windsor, so I don't have the Detroit connections to those sports, but I love the Tigers.
Okay.
So I appreciate the Blue Jays, but you'll notice by the way I talk about Detroit baseball that there's always a tinge of bias in there, whether they're doing something good and I say, oh, that doesn't happen very often, or they're doing something bad and I pile on them in highlight packs. That was kind of my go-to.
Right.
I would often get tweets like, what's this guy's deal with the Tigers? This guy is way too harsh. Yeah, it's love.
That's the thing. Tough love.
Show your love.
You expect more.
But I chose the Cleveland Browns over the Detroit Lions because as a child, I thought I was wise enough to know that the Lions sucked.
Right.
And the Browns were on CBS in Windsor.
That's true.
CBS Toledo. So, their fans dressed up like dogs, and they had a mean old owner that was going to move them away. And they played in a stadium that was completely unfit for NFL football. What kid wouldn't fall in love with a team like that? So my love of them has changed a little bit.
Has it? Are you still there, though?
I mean, I'm still there. I'm not going out to the gatherings. There's a big Toronto Cleveland Browns supporters group.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the Toronto Browns backers. That they are the biggest NFL supporters group outside of the home state of
Is that right?
any team. They've got quite a few members.
Okay.
So,
It's a great place to go to a game. Cleveland's a nice place to go to the game. The fans there, I mean, they've suffered through a lot. Until LeBron brought that championship in 16, right? Like there wasn't a lot to celebrate in Cleveland sports.
No, I mean the baseball team was pretty good. Like after being laughable for over a decade,
They had their moments,
right? In the '90s, losing to the Marlins, that's when I thought like they were cursed,
right?
And then to be the team on the other side of the Cubs finally winning the World Series, like.
Very true.
You got to feel cursed.
Yeah, there was a golden age there where Cleveland was kind of had a renaissance going. Jacobs Field was new.
Yeah.
Indians were pretty good. Now they're the Guardians, obviously. But yeah, it's tough times in Cleveland sports yet again.
Is there a sport that you get as excited about when you stumble into an old conversation? I feel like Grappler, you probably like this. For me, it's like '90s baseball. I wasn't intending to talk about '90s baseball, but since you brought up Cleveland, like we can go down Kenny Lofton, like Albert Bell, Omar Vizquel. We can go down this whole road.
Good times.
Of how it's just that period. I think everyone has a sport. It's probably based on where you grew up or what your super fandom was at that period in your life. That it's embedded. Like I will always remember those names.
Yeah, I think there are. I think a lot of that is dependent on kind of the like random teams that you're a fan of. Like
that too.
For example, I'm a massive New York Giants fan, and that really just kind of started in like 2005, 2006. And of course, they went on to win Super Bowls in 2007 and 2011.
Oh, that's convenient.
And that was when I was a much more, let's just say, vocal and argumentative sports fan. And so if I was talking to whether it was a Cowboys fan or a Patriots fan, or I was very obnoxious about it. So, and you know, friends of mine, Broncos fans, Falcons fans, Bucks fans, and they just had absolutely nothing on me. So looking back on those moments, those were obviously incredible, but like, nobody I'm talking to cares that I'm so excited about these Giants Super Bowl championships from, 15 years ago.
There is Matt
Yes,
Cos.
Kaz and I. That's pretty much
That's it.
You also, it just means you got to widen your circle. You can't just be talking to like Toronto-based NFL fans. I mean, there's probably like how many grappler equivalents are there that are Bills fans that would talk about some of those?
Oh,
maybe a little older when talking about those near moments.
Well, I mean, that's just it. Like, I'm sure there were, some good memories leading up to the 4 consecutive Super Bowls that the Bills lost, but I don't know if they're necessarily remembering those moments over, super fondly.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas I'm only talking about those, like, I'm not talking about the Giants, 07, 2011 Super Bowl trips if there were Super Bowl losses. It's only because they took down JP's Patriots.
Is JP a Patriots fan too? Oh man.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
when we went down the road of piling on the Patriots, so he thought. He doesn't often get in my ear, but he said, "Watch it," and I literally looked at my position, thinking I was out of frame of the camera shot on TSN4. That's what I thought. I'm like, oh, I was getting a direction. No, I was getting a warning, an editorial warning. I didn't think there was censorship in our business. Look at this.
No chirping the Patriots on this show.
He has all the power though. He could literally turn the mic.
He can do that. He's good at it.
He's good.
Like that. Kirk Cousins.
Shall we talk a little Blue Jays, my friend, before I get lost in Lionel Messi in the League's Cup? We'll get into
unless we want to talk about the Grappler not being a fan of another thing, Eddie O's King's Plate picks.
Oh, you went to the King's Plate with Brian Hayes yesterday.
Yeah, Hazy and I made an appearance at the King's Plate yesterday. Big thanks to our friend. There's the photo up on TSN4. What do you guys think? Before we get into the actual event, what do you guys think of the bow tie look? Because I got a lot of positive reviews, but there were times where I'm looking at myself in the mirror, just like, what are you thinking here, Keith?
Extraordinary.
Like,
I would say this, and I think Dave agrees with me. You're missing the. Oh my! Now the name.
Suspenders?
Yes, exactly.
Suspenders. I know.
I almost said
that was a very common criticism. You were missing the suspenders.
Where was this?
Could have added suspenders. Would have. You know what? I thought it was very horse racing appropriate. Grappler with the hat and the bow tie, a little retro action for a retro sport. You're talking about a sport that's been around. What was that? The 164th running of Canada's oldest horse race. So yeah, I think nice fashion choice.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But no, listen, it was an awesome event. Big thanks to our friends Leanne and Greg, who took care of us. Super fun event. But yeah, so Eddie O came on the show on Friday. Dave, you were obviously here, and the 4 horses that Eddie was most excited about were the 15, the 8, the 2, and the 3. 8 was Wickenheiser, which I think you can imagine where that name came from. But yeah, the 15 horse was nowhere close.
Running dead last at one point.
Running dead last for a good chunk of the race.
Yes.
I don't think he didn't finish last though. But
I don't think he did.
But here's the thing: it's a 19 horse race. Or actually, I think it was 18 because one got scratched. So.
Okay.
I mean, any horse can win on any given day, right? So I don't mean to criticize Eddie, but yeah, he made some picks that, let's just say, leading up to the main event yesterday, there were a lot of people that were telling us that, like, they heard the Eddie O segment on Friday, how excited they were to, make picks based on what Eddie had to say. And then after things wrapped up and it didn't go super well for Eddie's picks, Eddie O was not a popular man at Woodbine.
Right.
So the 13 horse ended up winning. The 2 horse, whom Eddie did mention, finished second. But no, super fun day.
And wasn't it the best detail is the 2 sharp-looking handicappers, Hazy B and the Grappler, getting their photos taken. They're the big celebrities on the backstretch. and it's Mrs. Hazy B and Mrs. Grappler that picked the 13. Am I right on this?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're bang on. Yeah, Hazy and I walked in there, each bet on our first race, each won on our first race. So the rest of the, after that, you're just thinking like, okay, we're playing with house money at this point. And then we both ended up walking out of there losers because nothing else hit the rest of the day. But both our wives, who, clearly they knew something that we didn't. They both bet the 13 in the main event and ended up walking out winners. So
Paramount Prince, baby.
Yeah, not a total loss for both of our households, but I do think Hayes and I both need to have our egos checked a little bit.
Were people surprised at how tall you are? I think that's what our television audience is consuming now. I mean, mind you, that's not the first time they've seen a photograph of you, I know. But I'm standing next to Hayes, like you look considerably taller than Hayes.
Yeah, well, listen, Hayes isn't short. I think he's 6 foot 6'3", or sorry, 6 foot 6'1", and he's even leaning in a little bit, whereas I'm clearly just like pretending that I have very good posture and standing up completely straight.
Yeah, you work in radio. No one has very good posture in radio.
No, exactly. We're just lying, just hunched over, leaning into microphones. There's the odd time where people see a photo. Whether from O's wedding or my own wedding and coming on the show and being on the show afterwards, like there are people that are just like, who is this monstrosity standing next to Hayes? And then it's like, oh yeah, they find out it's the Grappler. And then I guess being tall and having a nickname, the Grappler, go hand in hand. So I don't think at this point people are too surprised at my height, but I'm sure once in a while it still happens.
It would, if you were like the same height as Lorenzo Insigne with a name like the Grappler, like it would be. Yeah, that would be a thing. It does fit because you're tall, even though it doesn't actually fit because you're not a fighter.
No, not at all. Not even close. And the last thing I would consider myself to be is a fighter. I fight to grapple guests for this show. That's
there you go.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I like that. Well, we'll talk a little hockey later on in the show because you've grappled Marty Biron to come on and talk a little puck. We'll talk about the Women's World Cup, which ended yesterday with Amy Walsh, which means at some point we'll get into Lionel Messi as well. It's going to be a good show, my friend. I do like the fact that we have a multitude of topics to get to. I want to hit on the Jays, though, because as I said off the start, when we were talking 2 weeks ago, you and I, it seemed like the Jays were in a situation on a slippery slope where things could get out of hand very quickly. Now they're in a situation where they expected to be, I think. Not in a playoff spot as we speak right now, but having taken 2 of 3 off Cincinnati, they got to be feeling much better heading into September than they were at the start of August.
I think you're right on that, except they can't get comfortable, right? Seattle's rolling.
Yeah.
Seattle's coming. And, it's not going to be an easy race here when you think about this. I mean, anytime you wake up and you're not in one of those 3 wild card spots, I don't think you can feel good about yourself as much as you're right there. You're a half game back.
Can feel better with the teams behind you, though, as we look.
Well, that's true.
Standings. They're half a game out of the final wild card spot, but the Red Sox are 3 games back, and then the Angels are totally out of it. The Yankees are out of it. We've literally just put Cleveland on there to evenly fill out the board.
You're right. No, it feels like
they don't have teams breathing down their neck.
It's
which
4
in
teams for 3 spots, right? It's 4 teams for 3 spots. So the idea that with all the kind of turmoil in Tampa, with Wander Franco, maybe never going to see a baseball field again in the worst case, and probably not going to see one this season, given the situation in the Dominican Republic and the heinous stuff that's going on down there, and all the injuries that the Rays have been facing from McClanahan on down. I mean, you got to think like Tampa's catchable.
Oh, catchable, yeah.
I mean, they're catchable by I don't think they're a shoo-in.
No.
I mean, you got to think that there's a swoon in there.
There's vulnerabilities in that team.
Yeah,
that we
I think there is.
May not have said a month ago.
But you look at the schedule strength. The schedule strength's a little bit worrisome because Seattle's got a fairly easy schedule. The Jays have one of the easier schedules, depending on how you kind of, what kind of power ranking you look at, whether you're looking at the record of the teams or the relative strength of the teams. Or anyway, it's there's no easy sprint to the finish here, right? And as much as you got the offense going against the Reds, which was great, but we haven't seen much of that. We haven't seen enough of that this season.
No,
if you can start to see more, we've seen like some signs that they have a little more explosiveness in those bats than they've shown for the bulk of this season.
Right.
I think that's what's got to come here.
Sure.
You can't expect this staff to continue to carry you in the way it's carried you to here.
You're going to go through slumps in a 162 game season, and if you're going to do that, you want to do it as much as, it stresses people out that you do it after the All-Star break. If you're going to do it in that first month after the All-Star break, get it out of the system, figure it out, get your mechanics, get in a groove, and then you want to be cruising at the end of August and in September. And so they're starting to find that. You're right. They still need to elevate it. They can't get comfortable. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. left with a finger injury, though, which obviously is a concern. It doesn't seem like it was a major or serious injury. But if you are the Blue Jays who are looking longer term here, you're looking to be playing at least a game in October, can you afford to let Vladdy sit to perhaps heal that injured finger?
Well, it looks like they've been taking a pretty cautious approach with exactly what you're saying in mind, right? The way they've kind of nursed Springer back into the lineup, the way they've taken the extra day with Bo Bichette, here and there. And they're not rushing anybody, and that's probably smart, right? Because if you're doing this the right way, you're not thinking about, the 162. You're not just thinking about winning a wild card game or a wild card series. You're you're hoping to get to an ALCS and contend to be the American League representative in the World Series. And what's that going to require? That's going to require endurance and health, right?
At this point in the season, do you still think that that's the expectation in the team or that that's the hope? Because at the start of the season, I think they all believed like ALCS or bust.
Yeah.
Whereas now, ALCS would be a surprise to me. Wouldn't it be to you?
Well, I mean, look, how many unpredictable things happen in the baseball playoffs, right?
Well, yeah.
If you're in the dance, you got a chance to get to the end, right? And be the last team standing. And I think, look, it would shock you to some degree because we just haven't seen the team we thought we'd see, right? We haven't seen the team that hits with explosiveness and racks up 3-run homers. We haven't seen Vladdy Guerrero Jr. be a world-class talent. Speaking of forget the finger injury, forget the occasional defensive hiccup. This guy he just hasn't raked like everybody thought he'd rake.
No.
And certainly looks nothing like the guy that hit 48 home runs in 2021. And so short of that, with Springer not being the leadoff guy that everybody hoped and expected he would be, you can go on down the list. Like, the presences that were expected to be focal points of your offense have been disappointments in a lot of respects, right? Outside of Bo Bichette, right? And so, look, Bo Bichette goes down for 15 games, and what did Vladdy do over that stretch?
I know.
Didn't pick it up.
He didn't
carry the team. Didn't say, hey, okay, no problem. Our best guy's down. Time for me to take over.
Which is why I'm thinking that maybe some load management at this point isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Small sample size with Bo coming back this weekend. Maybe you can do without Vladdy for 3 games. Maybe two series. Can you afford to spread it out? Sometimes
you don't notice them anyways. I mean,
it does seem like that,
or at least not in a good way. You're not noticing them for the things you're hoping to notice them for.
It does seem like that, but it all depends on like where his head is at, and we're not in that clubhouse. We don't really know.
Well,
I don't know if John Schneider really knows what's going on.
Look, we were talking to Keegan Matheson last week on the show, Brendan, and he was talking about how when Vladdy's good, Vladdy's having fun.
Yeah.
Vladdy's smiling. Vladdy's joking around. Vladdy's laid back. And that version of Vladdy has not necessarily been there very often this year. And whether that's because some of his old pals at the end of the dugout that were doing the sunflower showers and the jacket tradition after the home runs are no longer in the building. Who knows if that's a factor? Whether it's just, hey, down year. People have figured him out. He hasn't countered the counter. In terms of the strategy and the way they're pitching him, or maybe it's what Steve Phillips has talked about a lot this season, that he also hasn't gotten a lot of protection at key times, right? Like if nobody around him is a threat, why would you pitch to Vladdy? And so there's a lot, sort of pinning it on one thing is tough, but to your point about load management, look, if that's what he needs, yeah, I'd say you give it to him now because this is still salvageable. Like it doesn't,
hugely, yeah.
It hasn't as much as we can list the negatives of this season. They're still right in the hunt, thanks to the extra wild card, thanks to the fact that the Red Sox aren't great this year, thanks to the fact that Yankees have gone kaput. A lot of things have gone in their favor. There's been a lot of circumstantial developments around the AL East that have really gone in their favor. So look, now you got to go against the number 1 team in the Baltimore Orioles for a little while here and see how you do.
And really test yourself. And that's the worry. See how you do at a point where, the the Orioles don't have anyone breathing down their necks.
No.
So perhaps they'll take their foot off the pedal, unlike when they met 3 weeks ago. But if you told any Blue Jays fan that the Toronto Blue Jays would be in the situation they're in right now, half a game out, with yes, we're still talking about Vladdy not performing, but you've got some better games out of, you've got a few better games out of Springer, you got some good games out of Bo Bichette, I think they would have snapped your hand off for this situation.
No, you're right.
3 weeks later. And the fact that, as you highlighted, you don't really have teams behind you that you have to be as worried about, other than Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
choice.
and you go into you still think about how, it's a weird playoff system where, the third wild card's a really good spot because of the fact you'll face the third seed, which is going to be the central winner.
Yeah.
Which is a team that, last I
wouldn't
checked
be in the playoffs.
Is the 8th best team in the American League as we speak right now, right? So it's a weird system that way, but I mean, the thing is, like, you look at it and you're like, it hasn't gone great, but if you can just have one good run down the stretch here, where a few of the bats that have been pretty cold all year suddenly get hot, suddenly it changes the whole picture, right? And I think that's what you have to be thinking that. And to your point, if a little bit of rest for Vladdy in the tail end of August means that he's going to have a little more juice in the bat when it matters in mid-September, let's go with a little bit of rest right now.
Would you want to change the baseball playoff format? I actually think that they've got it right. I think that you are in a period, and it's cyclical, right? Sometimes in the past it was the AL West was weak. It's always the East that maybe you don't want to face, or the East where you've got multiple teams coming out from. But yeah, it's cyclical that you have a whole division as weak as the Central has been the last few years, right? You go back 10 years, nobody wanted the Tigers.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Even when they went to the World Series, nobody wanted wanted Cleveland.
No, you make a good point, but I still think, like, we were having this conversation with Phillips earlier in the week or last week, and like, I don't think you can have it the way it is, though. Like, you got to reseed by record. Like, I understand they want the division title to mean something.
It should mean something.
Well, but should it really mean that you essentially make the first and second wild card worse positions to be in than the third wild card? Because suddenly Tampa and Houston are sitting there going, wait a second, we got to play each other while the Blue Jays get the Twins?
But I mean,
where's the justice in that?
But is that different than when you have a stacked division like the East, which has been like for 2 or 3 decades where you've had multiple playoff teams come out of that same division?
Well,
like, I mean, it's kind of the same, but at least with this, there's a variability that third team isn't always going to be from the Central.
No, it's not.
Just for the next 3 years.
No, it's not always going to be. But, I mean, if it's about fairness, Brendan, I mean, this ain't fair. It ain't fair. It would not be fair if the playoffs start today. How is it fair to the Rays, who are 5.5 games ahead of the Blue Jays, that they will have to play the Houston Astros in the wild card series? Well, the Jays, now, if the playoffs started today, of course, the Jays would not be in the playoffs. But let's just say they were. If they were a game better and they were ahead of Seattle, they'd get I don't see how that's fair that they would get the Twins. I mean, it would be great. Like, it's a great advertisement for staying where you are or moving up ahead of Seattle and getting that third wild card and not moving up too far. Not that you can really play that game of chicken.
Right.
But I think you got to reseed by record, don't you? Like, who cares who wins the Central? How can the team with the 8th best record, suddenly look? I'm not saying the Central winner shouldn't get into the playoffs, but shouldn't you just say, look, the 3 division winners get into the playoffs, the 3 wild card teams get into the playoffs, then we reseed by record.
I like the volatility and the variability that comes from this setup. Also, to go back to a point you made a minute ago, when has baseball ever been fair?
I know life's not fair. I understand that. No,
wouldn't you be a little bored? Like, 162 game season. It's hard to be in it for the entire season. Mm-hmm. People, you're taking vacations. Your team's not very good. Again, speaking as a Tigers fan, and I know that there's got to be some viewers and listeners in Southwestern Ontario that feel the same as me. It's hard to be as dialed into baseball when your team isn't competitive like that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be boring if baseball was more fair, Dave?
Well, I'm just saying, if you're in the East, you're just saying, look, I mean, okay, so you're already giving the Central winner a place in the playoffs when in terms of fairness, they don't deserve it.
That's why they've expanded, open to more teams. How many
I know.
times have the Jays or the Red Sox been second and known since the beginning of the middle of August that they weren't going to catch the division
I
leader?
get that, but all I'm telling you is, okay, as it sits right now, you look at it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 8th best team is the Minnesota Twins. There are 6 teams that are going to get in the playoffs, and the Minnesota Twins are going to be one of them. Makes sense of that the 8th best team would get into a 6-team American League playoff. So we're already throwing the Central a bone here, okay?
By just allowing them to
By
participate.
just allowing them into the playoffs when they don't deserve to be in the playoffs by record, right? And by the way, they get more games against the Central, which means they should have a better record.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't. Every team in the Central has a sub-500 record
Except
against
Minnesota.
the East.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's all I'm saying. You've already given them one bone. Why not, make that bone a little bit tougher to chew by saying, okay, you'll get your place in the playoffs no matter what if you win the Central, but we can't give you the 3rd seed. It's not fair. It's not fair to the 2 other wild cards who would love to play you but can't.
There's got to be some Twins fans watching. Some of Winnipeg and Southern Manitoba are watching, and they're furious with what you're saying, Dave.
Hey, man.
It's just hating on the Minnesota Twins.
I'm not hating on
wait
the
till you see what that matchup is, and the Twins go and take one game in that matchup.
Oh, I'm not saying they can't win. We know how it works. Like we saw the Phillies last year to be the last team in the National League and get to the World Series. Like it happens. I'm not saying they're not a good team. I'm saying they're the 8th best team in the American League in a 16 playoff.
You are just stating facts. Yeah. I get that.
I'm not saying they're not a good team. I'm just saying. But look, if you're the Blue Jays, though, and you can somehow wrangle or grapple that 3rd wild card, screw changing the format, you'll take the Twins all day.
It makes for some really good sports talk radio, that's for sure. Overdrive,
great.
Continuing on TSN Radio 1050. And when you're watching on TSN 4, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Calm down. You're being too loud. And it's like, oh.
There's always a reason when you hear Taylor Swift on this station. It's not just because she's iconic and the highest grossing touring artist of all time. Is that the
Gotta
level
be,
she's
right?
at now?
If not yet, then soon.
I mean, if you're like the Rolling Stones or Kiss or Ozzy Osbourne, you must regret not being a touring peak artist at this point in time. Financially, exclusively at this point in
With
time.
the ticket prices people are charging,
Right. And what they would have turned. I mean, we say this with athletes all the time too.
True.
Right?
Yeah, because Taylor Swift. You lose track of the money she's making. I mean, six nights at the Rogers Center, 300,000 tickets. They're all averaging about 20 fingers. No, 20 fingers is the only guy that's got any tickets. The morning show producer. But other than that, I don't know, man. It's
No, Gordon Miller's got tickets.
Did Gordy get him? No, he got the LA ticket.
Oh, LA tickets. I'm sorry. Of the 6 shows here, the only person that you know.
The only person
Is
I've
20
heard
fingers?
of in the TSN radio circle, anyways.
Wow.
20 fingers. Chris Diafaro somehow wrangled. I think you got a 4-pack.
Well, the reason that we bumped in with Taylor Swift, I say there's always a reason, is because on Boston radio circles, Bill Belichick went off of the traditional path where he usually just says nothing.
Yes.
He often, he'll speak words, but he doesn't ever say anything.
No.
But on WEEI Boston Radio, this was this morning, Grappler, he said something I think kind of shocked the world.
Saw a little bit of Taylor.
That's my guy.
We were wondering about that.
Yeah, that was about it.
Did you enjoy it?
Did you get rained out? Were you at that show?
That was pretty impressive.
Yeah,
She
killed it.
She's tough, man. She just stood out there and played right through it.
You consider yourself to officially be a Swiftie now?
Officially, I don't know about that, but well, look, I'm definitely on the. You got to calm down.
Okay, he's a Swiftie.
That's pretty good. Like you got to calm down.
That would be like his song of choice, right? For someone who's as high energy as he is. Like,
Yes.
naturally, that was the pull.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine when you're that successful and that dialed in, and niche as someone like him, not just being a football coach, but particularly the type of mind that he is, that, that something like that really resonates with you. You're going to get the pull. has to be like super strong and also like super niche.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. There's 50 other songs, 50 other reasons that he could have chosen to become a Swiftie or a pseudo Swiftie, as he's trying to
Right.
hide and not admit. But I do like that reaction.
Good shot at the media too, because
Yeah.
basically the gist of his entire media persona is, "Would you idiots just calm down, please?"
Oh, 100%. Which is a perfect segment for us then, Grappler. Who needs to calm down? I feel like there's a way that we can take this through the sporting world.
Yes, I mean, listen, that's what we're looking for, is just whether it's clips or stories or pretty much anything that we can turn into segments for our enjoyment, for our, anything that benefits us. So with that in mind, who would need to be calmed down more? U.S. golf fans if Brooks Koepka is left off the Ryder Cup team because he plays on the LIV Tour, or Canadian basketball fans if Canada fails to qualify for the Olympics at the upcoming FIBA World Cup.
I tell you, I hope that Canada as a country would be upset if Canada failed to qualify for the World Cup or for the Olympics, excuse me. I really hope that the country would be super angry.
Oh, yeah.
I think the basketball community is, it's grown, it's louder, it's more connected than it was 4 years ago. But I don't know if there would be as much. I feel like it's more the country's a bit more apathetic to Canada not being there.
Good point.
Which I think sucks.
Been too long, right? It's
Right.
been
2000.
Since 2000, the Sydney Games with Steve Nash as the guy, which is hard to believe.
I know.
But-
you mentioned 2000, and people only think about Vince jumping over the 7-foot French guy.
That's right. What a dunk. But I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, as much as I think it would be an outrage if Koepka's kept off this team, because if he's kept off this team, it's for one reason and one reason only, and it's because he took the Saudi money, went to the LIV Tour. And the guys that are running this team were PGA Tour loyalists, right?
Sure.
So we know that, but Koepka's, as much as he's been knocked out of the automatic picks, he should be a captain's pick. He's a big game player. He's won a major this season. He's contended at the Masters, took the 54-hole lead into Sunday at the Masters. So he's a no-brainer pick, except for the fact that there's a ton of hypocrisy in golf right now. And even though the PGA Tour...
But just now, Dave?
Yeah.
Just this new?
Okay.
Just now?
There's always been hypocrisy in golf, Brendan. I would agree with you there. But it's more elevated and, I would say underlined right now, right?
Yeah.
It's in boldface type hypocrisy. And so, but I agree with you. Like people that care about basketball in this country will need to be calmed down if yet again, Canada basketball with the best team it's ever put on a floor. This is what this team is. This is the best team ever assembled for an international competition, at least on paper, judging by their NBA resumes.
Sure.
If they don't do it this time and they got to go to the last chance tournament again, man, they've been to the last chance saloon an awful lot.
They have.
And we know how it's turned out every single time. It's not an easy place to win. Their best chance is to be in the top two of the Americas. Basically, they got to finish ahead of Dominican Republic, who, by the way, beat them in a tune-up game the other day. But with Karl Anthony Towns, they're no joke. Okay, it's not like a bunch of shortstops out there. They're good at basketball.
And Carlos Arroyo.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
Puerto Rican. It was Puerto Rican?
Yeah, he was Puerto
My
Rican.
apologies. Yeah.
They were good. Arroyo had a Puerto Rican team. That was a special team. They beat the U.S. in 04.
Right.
But they got to get this one done, man. They got to get this one done. Or there should be. You're right. There should be apoplectic fans saying, "What the heck is going on here? Are we soccer?"
Hey, what is that? Let's wait for the 5 o'clock
if you're
hour.
paying
to get
attention.
into
Just
some
catching
soccer, my
strays
friend.
here. Wow.
Yeah. Also, can I just say quickly, Grappler, that I am very much in the camp of I'm all about the politics. If you want to leave Brooks Koepka off the Ryder Cup team, I'm in your camp.
Okay.
All about it.
All right.
Let it be known. Let it be out there that he's not there because he took the money. And you know what he's going to do? He's just going to drink better champagne than you, and he's going to sit back and he's going to laugh when they lose to Europe.
Well, and I also think Brooks Koepka has made it not obviously clear, but it just seems as though he's not someone who loves golf. He plays it because he's great at it.
Yeah.
So I feel like if he was left off the U.S. Ryder Cup team, fans would be far more upset than Brooks Koepka actually would be.
I think you're right.
I
think
don't
you're
know, man.
I think
guy's
you're
a
right.
gamer. He wants to win. He wants to be a part of this.
All right. Anyways, moving on. Who would need to be calmed down more? Blue Jays fans if the Jays miss the playoffs entirely, or Maple Leafs fans if Austin Matthews and William Nylander are not signed to extensions before the season opener?
A couple of doomsday scenarios there. I mean, you know what? I think people in this town wouldn't be shocked if the Blue Jays missed the playoffs the way this season has gone, right? like it's been kind of a blah season. As much as you've been in the wild card hunt, you haven't even been close to winning the AL East. You're going to go up against the Orioles beginning tomorrow night. Maybe you can make some inroads on the Orioles lead, but you're 8+ back of the division lead. You're a half game back of the third wild card right now, and Seattle's leapfrog. Just so I don't know if people are going to be like apoplectic if they miss. I think people might be kind of like shrug and go, yeah, we kind of saw it coming. Whereas Leaf fans, I don't think are going to take it well if they do not have these two guys, especially that one guy, number 34, signed to a long-term extension by the season opener. I know the Bruins have done this dance, and they signed Pasternak mid-season in a contract year in a very similar type of situation. And there wasn't a lot to do about it because I think everybody assumed it was going to get done. The fact that this hasn't gotten done, I think it's going to make people very agitated, and they will need to be told to calm down or take a yoga class or meditate or, do some sort of controlled breathing, Brendan.
Since we're all about facts on this show, as you pointed out in the earlier segment, especially, don't Leafs fans always need to be calmed down at some point in the season?
Well, that's probably true.
Given this scenario, which you label as doomsday is the Leafs losing both Nylander and Matthews for nothing.
Right.
That's ultimate doomsday. That's not going to happen. But I do think that Matthews is not feeling as much pressure to sign before the season starts. The pressure's on the team, and the team may feel the pressure more, certainly from the fan base as the season begins. So I think in general, we're always telling Leafs fans to calm down, but they're going to have a harder time stomaching it than I think Blue Jays fans would in missing the playoffs. But the sadness that the hype and the expectation from earlier in this season was for naught for the Blue Jays, that'll be hard to stomach.
Yeah, I think it would have to be Jays fans because, listen, even if, Nylander and Matthews are going into this season without deals, they're still going to play.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Jays, it's what was it at the beginning of last year when Vlad Jr. called 2021 the trailer, and last year was going to be the movie. Like, what the hell's 2023? The credits, and not very good ones. So no, I think considering the expectations that have been placed on this Jays team and the hype that's been built around them, I mean, pretty much since 2020. It's like I think fans would just be absolutely outraged.
The scary thing as we approach TIFF Film Festival season here in Toronto is that he didn't classify what category of movie it was, right? We just assume A-list because he's A-list, right? He didn't tell us that Stephen Baldwin was in this movie. He didn't tell us that it's it's a B-class movie. It's flirting with the wild card. It's arguing about the Central. No, he didn't tell us what classification of film it was.
Yeah, but I mean,
we got suckered, Grappler.
Well, I think by the way he kind of described it, I mean, he was thinking Barbie, he was thinking Oppenheimer, he was thinking Titanic, the movie itself in terms of what it netted, not
right.
what actually happened with Titanic.
Yeah, that was that's just naturally where you went. Of all the blockbusters you could have chosen, you went with Titanic.
Could have gone Avatar.
Oh, but it was an accident.
Unbelievable. Anyways, moving on. Who would need to be calmed down more? Raptors fans if Masai Ujiri goes through another season without making a significant trade, or Maple Leafs fans if Brad Treliving doesn't improve the defensive corps before the playoffs?
Ah, that's a good one.
Whoa. I mean, look, Masai Ujiri's kind of he's on the clock a little bit here.
I think so.
Like the honeymoon from the 2019 championship is officially over. Okay. Yeah. We're a quadrennial removed, all right, from the championship parade. So, and you know what? Like, as much as he got the big contract and, one of the richest executives in pro sports history, there were people on that board that didn't feel like they needed to give it to him.
Right.
And, we're advocating for not giving it to him and held up the deal. And those people, I would assume, are going to have a pretty close eye on the progress of this team under Masai Ujiri since he got the big money.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It hasn't been particularly good.
No, it hasn't been. I mean, there's been factors. I think that the honeymoon period was extended because there was a patience and an understanding to playing in Tampa Bay for a year. The pandemic affected the Raptors differently than it did the rest of the NBA. But I don't know if it's one move that Masai needs to make to correct things, or if that's just this external pressure where then you might back the guy into a situation where he does make some type of crazy move, like
Right.
perhaps being a part of a multi-team trade with Harden. Not saying James Harden would come here, but you feel you kind of get sucked into having to do something, and I think that's that's even more dangerous of a situation.
Yeah,
when-
I don't
when
like
you
the
feel
Harden.
getting
I wouldn't
crushed
touch
into
Harden
that.
wouldn't touch Harden with a 10-foot pole because he's not a winning guy.
No, he's
I mean,
not.
how can you watch what he's done, force his way out of it, situation after situation, onto his third situation where he's forcing himself out and want to take him on? I mean, you'd have to be a real risk taker. You'd have to be awfully desperate. And I think that's ultimately the team that'll get him will be a desperate team that doesn't have another alternative for their upside, right? And
100%.
and so my thing is like, but the thing with Masai is I know what you mean. Like it can't necessarily be one move, but we've come through trade deadlines where like, oh, you wait at the trade deadline this year, you buy at the trade deadline with Pirtle. And then you get blown out in a play-in game and you lose Fred VanVleet for nothing. You know, not unlike you declined to trade Kyle Lowry at the trade deadline.
Right.
And then you lose Kyle Lowry in a sign and trade, you get Precious Achiuwa. Just like you lost all those other guys for nothing that were the core of the championship team. Now, Kawhi, you tried and you'd missed, but Gasol and Ibaka leave for nothing. And they've essentially watched the core of a championship team walk out the door for nothing.
Right.
That exacts a toll. Now, I'm not saying all those things were Masai Ujiri's fault,
Sure.
but just the reality of his situation has been he has not received any compensation for any of those players. So Pascal Siakam going into a contract year, if you're not going to re-sign him,
Yeah.
if you're going to go younger, you got to get something for him, man. And I think that's the significant trade that people are really having an eye on right now.
It's a long list of guys too when you lay it out like that. So yeah, Raptors fans need to calm down. Is where I stood on that.
Yeah, I see. I think I would lean Leafs because I guess it depends how you're defining significant trade. Like, is it significant trade to acquire somebody better, or significant trade to unload Pascal Siakam?
Well,
if it's unload Pascal Siakam, then and that doesn't happen, then absolutely. But I'm not expecting Masai to make a big move to bring in Lillard or James Harden.
No.
You know, like you, Dave. Not that I want anything to do with Harden. It's just where this franchise is right now. They're not in a position, like, even if heck, they could bring in Luka Doncic. They could bring in Giannis. They're still not going to compete.
No, but
Like,
I would
they're not
say
nearly good enough.
I would say, how about a significant trade where you do not allow two impending free agents in Gary Trent Jr. and Pascal Siakam to walk out the door for nothing?
Yeah,
Right.
Can't argue with that. All right, I think we should take a break here and maybe get to one more on the other side.
Oh, proper producer. Okay, man, we can get into that. I enjoyed that though. Thank you, Taylor Swift, for giving us segment ideas. Yeah, it's one of those days. This is Overdrive on TSN 4, TSN 1050, and the iHeartRadio app. Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. This week, TSN 1050 bringing you me, Brendan Dunlop, alongside Dave Feschuk today. We got into a pretty good segment last time out. Who needs to calm down more? Inspired by Bill Belichick's love of Taylor Swift. Grappler, we got a couple more here because I enjoyed going back and forth with Dave.
Yeah, I think we can fit a couple more in here. All right, who would need to be calmed down more? Speaking of the aforementioned Bill Belichick, New England football fans if Belichick is fired in his 24th season, or Buffalo Bills fans if the Bills don't at least make it to the Super Bowl.
I mean, I can't see Belichick getting fired midseason
Okay.
in any scenario, honestly. Like if they started the season 2-8, you really think that Kraft would do it?
I mean, he didn't win 7 rings for nothing, right? Or 6 rings. 6 rings. Robert Kraft didn't get 6 rings being not ruthless, did he?
Right.
I mean, Bill Belichick's 71 years old
Yeah.
and, hasn't gone particularly well since Brady left the building,
No.
and if there's a weakness there, I think it's pretty well documented that his power and influence over personnel decisions, as good as an X and O guy as he is, and as renowned a game planner as he is, and as feared a game planner as he is, he hasn't necessarily known how to pick the guys that run the X and O's,
Right.
right? And so you wonder, how long does the clock tick? And your team be an afterthought in an AFC East that's got better teams that are going to likely finish ahead of you. And as you say, 2-8, not out of the realm of possibility. Mac Jones ain't the real deal, is he?
No, I don't think so.
You don't have a quarterback, and you don't have, the kind of talent that your division rivals have at their disposal. How do you beat them? I know you can't X and O it if you don't have,
Don't have the
Sometimes it's
don't have
it's
the
not about
tools.
the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes, as they say.
But I think the Bills and the fan base expects this team to win the AFC. So they
Yeah.
got to make the AFC Championship game.
I would say, yeah, getting to the Super Bowl is going to be tough with dude named Mahomes sitting there, guy named Aaron Rodgers that came to town, Tua Tagovailoa and Miami. If they can stay healthy,
Yeah.
they're nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, it's
AFC
looking it's looking like it's looking like an AL East type of competitive division. Yeah, it's
Not
tough.
easy, man. Not easy. But so I'd have to go. JP would know better than anybody. JP want to see yay or nay on Belichick getting the
the
walking
axe?
papers if they don't do well this year.
I wouldn't fire him. I think the
Okay.
team just doesn't have the talent to compete.
But it's his fault.
But it's New England. man.
situationally his fault. He's
Okay.
missed on wide receiver drafts and stuff like that.
Yeah, you would have had to decide before the season, so it's not happening. We got to take a break here on OverDrive on TSN 4 and TSN 1050 in the iHeartRadio app.